soon as ChatGPT came out, I immediately tried it out for my VibeCoding workflow. And I ended up switching back to Gemini and Claude for my VibeCoding assistance just after about an hour. I'll show you why. Before I show you what happened, let me just give you a sense of my VibeCoding workflow. I build in Repl.it, and I use Repl.it's assistant to execute certain commands. More and more, I'm starting to edit the files directly. However, I don't use Repl.it assistant for bug fixing and telling me what it thinks might be wrong. I'm actually running another model, another assistant on the side. I use Perplexity because I like the model picker, and it's helpful that I can choose between normal mode and deep research mode. So I run all the debugging logic, all the hypotheses through a chat flow that is in Perplexity, and I'm usually talking with Gemini 2.5 Pro. So when ChatGPT came out, I immediately thought, well, the best way to try it is to switch my debugging workflow from Gemini 2.5 and Deep Research and Claude 4 to ChatGPT 5 and see what happens. You can meet my VibeCoding partner, Mishka. Mishka, what do you think about ChatGPT 5, huh? Do you like it? Do you think it's yummy? Do you want a treat? All right. You don't want to be held up. So I was running this debugging conversation with I call it my development coach, my software development coach. And I usually use Gemini 2.5 Pro. So I was encountering an error, curly bracket error from my curl command in Repl.it that was letting me know that my API for my Repl.it app was not connecting to my Flowise AI agent flow that I had built over there. And what I do here is I load up a lot of context. You'll see I'm in a chat that has 2 documents uploaded in the context. There's a debugging log from the prior session where we kind of had our first breakthrough about how to connect Flowise AI to Repl.it. And I also have the PRD uploaded to the space, as well as other kind of foundational context documents. So there's a lot of context for the agent to understand what I'm building, how I'm building it, what software I'm using. And I'm actually just dropping in at every point screenshots and descriptions and pasting the error messages. So here we're still chatting with Gemini 2.5. I like Gemini 2.5's personality. It's so helpful. It kind of goes on this emotional journey with you as you're debugging. It celebrates with you. It gets bummed out with you. It gets stumped with you. But the most important part is when you're in this kind of debugging state, your mind is going for, okay, let's figure out the next possible hypothesis and let's test it. Let's see if it works. And let's just go down the list of what else could be wrong. And so what you see here is that it's very casual. It says, it looks like we've run into the same type of templating issue. Step 1, it gives me the next thing to try. And it gives me the whole block for the corrected system message. So it actually rewrites the code that's already there and tells me what to look out for, success criteria. Simple, sweet, short, love it. Again, Gemini 2.5 gets overly excited. It's over optimistic. It says, I found the exact issue and solution. It always says this is the definite solution. I just don't take it on its word anymore. But it's not frustrating because it's really trying. It's only going one step at a time. And so it kind of gives me the next action required. Here, try this JSON format, replace it with this one, complete the corrected system message. It again outputs the whole system message for me. After making the changes, save the chat flow, rerun the curl test. And this should resolve the template parsing error completely. Now, it also explains why this is happening. Flowise AI is built on LangChain. So it says the double curly braces tell LangChain to treat them as literal curly braces in the output, not as template variables to be substituted. So I'm actually learning as I go and why certain things may be happening. It's a very inefficient way to learn, I know, but you have to do it. You have to do what you have to do to build production apps these days. I mean, it's so supportive. Look at it. It says, perfect. You've made great progress. It's so important when you're vibe coding and you just keep hitting your head against the wall over and over again to just get a little bit of an encouragement. Even if it's fake AI encouragement, makes you feel better. We've solved the error and now Claude 4 Sonnet is accepting the API call. The current issue is that the variables are not being passed correctly to the agent. And basically it's telling me to set up a new node in the Flowise AI agent flow. Update your tool agent configuration, update system message. Great, super helpful, super fun. It's got all these check marks. Super helpful, I feel. But of course, I'm hearing now that ChatGPT 5 has aced all the bench tests and is now the highest ranked software engineer assistant on the market. So of course, I'm going to try and switch to ChatGPT. I'm still chatting with Gemini 2.5 here. And I just love how it talks back to me. Of course, you spotted an excellent, very common point of confusion. You're correct. And so it's just very, I don't know, it's very emotionally gratifying that I'm actually thinking for myself here and I'm proposing some ideas. And actually it thinks that my ideas may have some merit. Now, this is the point where I switched to ChatGPT 5, but bear in mind that even though the bench test was about the model's ability to write code, this is not what we're doing here. What we're doing here is one level removed from actual producing code. Although it is producing code here, it's telling you like, try this JavaScript code or this JSON. It's not actually doing it inside of the code base. So this type of assistance, again, is one level removed, but fundamentally, it's still thinking about bugs in the code. It's still trying to isolate issues. It's still trying to figure out how to solve code issues. And immediately what you can see is the tone changes dramatically. I felt like my favorite TA, who I've come to know and like, just walked out of the room, and in came this pompous, arrogant professor who is just there to show me how much they know. And I'm just like left to look at them and feel stupid. So immediately it just says, the model is very strict and will reject even minor issues like smart quotes, hidden characters, or trailing commas. Use one of the two known good schemas below and follow the save checklist. Option 1, strict schema with validation preferred. Copy paste exactly this, no extra spaces before or after. Do not edit inside another editor first. Yeah, I understand that. Thank you for the instructions. I'm not stupid. I know that when you copy and paste code from a word processing editor, it screws up the formatting. So immediately I feel talked down to, which is fine. And then it gives me this JSON, and then it said save checklist. Do these exactly. Again, very condescending. Start with an empty modal, verify in the UI. Okay, after saving successfully, the tool should list. Okay, I understand what it should list. Very impersonal, very academic. And I am telling it, okay, I deleted this, I added this, I named this, then I pasted your code from option A, gave me the invalid JSON format. I double checked in both cases, there were no characters or spaces before or after the code. I double checked all the quotes were straight double quotes and not smart quotes. What do I do next? Now, if this was Gemini 2.5 Pro, I would have said, okay, thank you so much. You've done a great job. This has been frustrating. Okay, let's look at the next thing to do. But not ChatGPT 5. ChatGPT 5 is just so impersonal. And it says how to unblock. The error is almost certainly coming from the custom tool model's JSON schema validator, which is stricter than expected and differs between flow-wise versions and code node types in particular. Arrays objects are supported, but the nodal requires a specific structure, sometimes reject otherwise valid draft of 7 schemas due to internal constraints and version quirks. There are also known issues around schema handling in recent builds. So minimal friendly version schema plus a fallback approach tends to work best. Below are 3 reliable ways to proceed, starting with the simplest that avoids the page JSON path entirely. Option 1 recommended do not use page JSON, define inputs via input variables. And then it says this agent supports passing variables into a tool function via input variables. Great. So in the custom tool node, do this. In the JavaScript function, do that. Example. And this is where I'm starting to get overwhelmed. Robust parsing to handle a string versus object. I don't understand because it's not formatted like you saw when I was getting code snippets from Gemini 2.5 Pro. I was getting them formatted nicely. This thing is just here, and my eyes are already starting to just wander over this character salad here. And I'm wondering, is this a piece of code I should be putting someplace? What is this an example of? And then notes this bypasses the schema model entirely, uses flow-wise variable plumbing. It also sidesteps the invalid JSON format. Then option 2, paste JSON with a minimal flow-wise tolerant schema. If keeping the formal schema matters for your tool, I don't know if it does or not. Help me think through this. Use an ultra-minimal schema that avoids additional properties and deeply nested constraints. This matches what Flowwise's docs and structured output tutorials expect in simple cases. Try this minimal object with array schema. Try it, but like where? If the model still rejects this, remove description fields, paste in single line. Ensure file encoding is UTF-8 without bomb in your clipboard. Bombs can trigger invalid and strict validators. This is Greek to me. I do not understand what it's saying. Refresh Flowwise, add a brand new custom tool, paste again. Why this helps? It's a draft of 7 style minimal schema. I do not understand what that means. Okay, so now it gives me a third option. So now I'm like, oh, wow. Like, which of these options should I choose? It's giving me 3 things. Second one is full of things I don't understand. Option 3, bypass schema entirely and accept a single string, then JSON parse it. Use a pragmatic fallback. Define only string inputs in the GUI. Again, I understand what the GUI is. Not everybody will. Then parse it inside the tool. This aligns with community workarounds for mismatch parameter validation between tool runtimes and schema validators. So it says, so in the Repl.it payload, send Reddit JSON as a string field JSON. Gemini 2.5 Pro would never have done this. It would have just given me the new JSON code to put in the script in Repl.it. But this is telling me to actually like edit that code in Repl.it. But how would I do that? I would have to write some JSON code from scratch. And so here it's giving me something. I don't know if that's the code I should be putting in the payload. And then it keeps going. sanity checks that often fix invalid JSON format. And then it just gives me like basic housekeeping things, which are great to check, but some of them are like very abstract. Prefer minimal schemas for tool inputs, shallow definitions for reliability. Okay, but like, what does this mean practically? I feel like I'm getting lectured here about best practices in developing in Flowwise AI, which is not really helpful. I have a specific error I'm trying to fix. Next action, fastest unblock, use option 1 above. If a formal schema is required for your setup, try option 2. If this fails, fall back to option 3 once the tool is saved. Oh my goodness. Okay, so out of the gate, you're seeing how it took me like maybe 3 or 4 times longer to read through and try to understand what ChatGPT 5 is saying. Second, I feel overwhelmed. And at this point, my brain is starting to freak out because the language is very technical. It assumes I know how to write code from scratch. And it's just giving me too much information. It's too verbose. So I tell it that. The language in your instructions intimidates me a bit. I'm a vibe coder, and the technical jargon in your instructions makes me feel I don't really understand what I should be doing, but I'm trying my best. Here's how I interpreted your instructions for option 1. See the screenshot. I did not understand what you meant by in the JavaScript function, blah, blah, blah. I wasn't sure if you wanted me to take any action on this or what that action would be. So I just assumed that you were explaining some technical jargon that I don't yet understand. And immediately you would expect it to correct itself to say, oh, I'm sorry. Here's the one thing you should do next. Very simple. Go for it. You can do it, right? But it says, let's make option 1 simple and get it working. Totally fair that this felt jargony. Ugh. Okay, I have a confession to make. I worked for many years in Silicon Valley in tech startups in the Bay Area. And there's this one type of usually engineer, usually extremely bright, extremely smart, extremely capable, who just feels it's a waste of time to talk to you. And I feel like whoever programmed the language or the conversation patterns of ChatGPT 5 is doing the same thing. They are having the same condescending kind of matter of fact, but I'm smarter than you type of language pattern. And it's really rubbing me the wrong way. Okay. And then it says, must return a string. So we JSON stringify at the end. I don't understand what that means. Am I supposed to take this piece here? And where does it end? It's not formatted for me to easily see where the code snippet is. So I have to scroll down. Okay, I think it ends here, right? No need to touch type dropdowns. Don't add schemas. Just be sure the function returns JSON stringify at the end. I do not know what the function will return until we run it. So I do not understand what this means. Connect the tool and update the tool agent message. Keeps going. Part C. We already did this. Somewhere in the message add, use the process writer relevancy tool to analyze writer data. Keep the escaped output format you already fixed earlier. I do not understand what that means. Part D, test. Oh my God. This is its simplified message. Run your same curl again if the tool received data. You'll get JSON with relevancy analysis and total post analyze. If not, the function will return an error. Field plus a tiny debug received type to tell us what came through. I do not understand what this will look like. Something still doesn't work. I don't know if it's going to work or not because you just told me a bunch of things. I don't know how to check if they work or not. Payload JSON, make sure Reddit data is either an actual JSON array of posts or a string that contains the JSON array. The code handles both. Again, as somebody who can kind of read code but doesn't write code, oh my God, my throat is getting dry just from the stress of rereading ChatGPT 5's output again. I think I'm triggering PTSD from being condescended upon in tech. So I do not know how to make sure that Reddit data is either a JSON array of posts or a string that contains a JSON array. I do not know what the syntax looks like and how to check and where to check. If the agent replies, I don't have the data, usually means the input variables weren't added or saved. Reopen the custom tool and it's already giving me like 3 or 4 scenarios that can happen like 3 or 4 steps down the road. You're doing great. Oh my God. At the end here, you're doing great. Really, really. After I read all this and I'm overwhelmed, out of my mind, it's telling this is the minimum moves path that avoids the finicky JSON schema model. I do not know what it means. And yes, the pipeline unblocked today. And at this point, I'm like, it just took me half an hour to read through and try to understand what you said. Oh, and here's the best part. Oh my God, I got so mad. So it just gave me a whole lecture, all these part A, part B, part C, part D. But all this time, I was just trying to tell it, look at the screenshot. I think I'm setting it up correctly. Can you confirm that I'm about to hit save on something that's correctly formatted? And so after it gave me all this lecture and didn't actually look at the screenshot, I reprompted again. And I said, okay, but I wanted you to look at the attached screenshot and tell me if I did part A right, but you didn't respond. Can you take a look at the screenshot? Let me know if I did part A correctly. Also, where exactly is the custom tools code box? See the attached screenshot, which shows the entirety of the configuration of the node. I see, not code box. Oh my God, I'm starting to sound like a robot here. And so it says, review of your screenshot plus exact next steps. Thanks for the nudge. Now, if this was Gemini 2.5 Pro, it would have said, oh, I'm so sorry. You're right. I didn't actually take a look at the screenshot and I didn't do what he asked me to do. Instead, I gave you what I thought you should be asking instead. So condescending. I look closely at the screenshot you shared via the custom tool node. Did you do part A correctly? You added 3 input variables. This is exactly what part A asked for. Nicely done. Nicely done. Period. Not an exclamation point, no celebration, nothing. 2 quick checks to be 100% sure. Make sure each entry is saved. Ensure the custom tool node is connected to the tool agent's input. I mean, I am not an imbecile. Of course, this is it. I mean, you can see it from our work we've done before. We never disconnected this. Okay, fine. I'll make sure all the basics are there. Where's the code box? What to do instead works with your build. Before analysis, echo a short debug request. I do not understand what echoing a debug object means. If your build doesn't tolerate that inline conditional, I do not know what an inline conditional means in terms of, I understand it's like a nested piece of code inside another piece of code. But I don't understand where we're putting this piece of code, what we're doing in the UI. Okay, but this is a whole re-architecture of the flow, of the agent flow inside of Flowise AI. I need to understand how to set up that node. I do not understand what a tiny Repl.it endpoint means. What's the code for that? Where do I put it? All I wanted it to do is I wanted it to tell me, you set it up correctly, just click save and run the command and test again. Not this whole lecture of everything that could possibly be going on or what's happening. I have no idea how to add a debug echo snippet. Can you please write it for me? I do not know how to write code from scratch. Thank you for reminding me 20 different times in your simple response to this is right or this is wrong, how much you expect me to write in code and how much I don't know. After all this, it basically says, if you want me to do all this straightforward code work for you, why don't you drop the current system message text and I'll give you this. But honestly, there's like 5 or 6 action items that result from this. And I do not know what to do next because it just gave me a bunch of stuff. Now, this was Gemini 2.5. Pro would have just said, fantastic, great you found it. Try this code snippet. It's now reformatted to do XYZ. Give me a nicely formatted code snippet. All right, it's not nicely formatted. It's in line, but I guess I can just find, okay, no, it keeps going. Okay, I think that's here. Notes, the function must be a string. That's why everything JSON stringify at the end. I do not know what that means. Debug block only appears when Reddit data is missing or malinformed. Handy for troubleshooting the payload wiring. I do not know what that means. It's basically telling me to go in and do a bunch of edits on the system message. That's it. No giant rewrite needed. Oh, just that's it. So now it's given me some code that shows me that it's hard coding a bunch of stuff that I don't need it to hard code. It's overriding my very carefully designed and crafted logic to basically just hard code a bunch of stuff. And then it says, oh, you're absolutely right to call this out. No apology, nothing. So just to give you context, this model has as much context as Gemini 2.5 Pro. It has access to the PRD. It has access to debugging logs. It has access to my schemas. And it's still misinterpreting things and hard-coding things and giving me such complex instructions that I'm despairing, honestly. I'm despairing. And so, I mean, it's like, what to change now in the custom tool and the JavaScript code replace everything with this neutral data-driven logic. But it still has a problem in this code. I'm reading it and the logic doesn't make sense to me. And then it tells me a bunch of other things. And I say, wait, I want to double check why we're including this in the code. You're right. Let's remove the bias. Thanks for calling this out. We're not bug fixing here. We're just taking an improvement that I wanted to make with confidence. It gave me code or instructions, a prompt that overrode the logic of my previously meticulously crafted prompt. And instead of bug fixing, we're debating on why the prompt that it's giving me doesn't work for my business logic, because it's taking me like so much mind space to just read through like the absolute, like everything in the kitchen sink it gives me as answers. Then I have to struggle to make sense of it. And then I'm trying to correct it. And then we're not even bug fixing. We're like debating something else entirely. So at this point, I'm starting to get really depressed. I'm serious. And I said, there's another problem in your code. And then it says, you're right. The logic must require alignment, blah, blah, blah. Next steps. Oh my God. It's just so verbose. It takes so much cognitive effort for me to just understand what it's saying. Then I found another logical error. And then it says acknowledge. I mean, seriously, what is this? Like Houston calling astronauts in space? Gemini 2.5 Pro would have said, yes, that totally makes sense. I understand why you want it to be that way. So for the past hour, bear in mind, this probably took an hour. For the past hour, I've tried to make sense of the replies of ChatGPT 5 instead of just staying on track and bug fixing one specific issue. And then it introduced extreme complexity. It introduced hard-coded logic. It introduced things I didn't want there that did not need to be rewritten. And then I said, I think you're missing the context here. So it just gives me another lecture. I'm struggling with it. It's just very hard for me to interpret. I don't understand half of what it tells me to do. The way that it talks like assumes I'm going to go in and write the code myself. I told it many times already that I'm a vibe coder. I do not know how to write code from scratch. Its whole attitude reminds me very much of, you know what it reminds me of? It feels like I'm sitting right next to someone like Sam Altman, and I work with tons of people like him in Silicon Valley. Extremely smart, extremely self-absorbed, extremely highly opinionated of their own abilities and capacities. Feels like I'm sitting next to Sam Altman and having a conversation with him about this, and I'm feeling like crap. I'm feeling so shitty about myself because I'm not a coder like he is, and this just triggers a lot of insecurities in me. You're seeing I'm still trying to struggle with it. I'm like, well, this is supposed to be the best coding agent. Let me just give it a try. Let me keep struggling with it. This probably took a few hours. And it's just so condescending. I mean, I'm just getting sad by looking at my chat history with ChatGPT 5. I'm looking for the part where I switched back to Gemini 2.5, or actually deep research. I can't remember which one I switched to, but I switched away from ChatGPT 5. So here we are back to Gemini 2.5 Pro. You're absolutely right. I've been going in circles, not solving the actual problem. I apologize for the frustration. Thank you. Thank you. Please, thank you for relating to me. Looking at your own debugging, you already identified the correction, your debugging log. Oh my God, thank you for giving me things correctly formatted. I apologize. We've been going in circles. I apologize. Replace your current payload JSON with, oh, how nice it is to get a nicely formatted code snippet that I can just actually click here on this icon and just copy and paste. So here's me thinking through the problem, and this is Gemini 2.5 Pro. Excellent observation. You're absolutely right. And again, it's giving me nicely formatted code snippets. It's keeping things to one step at a time. It's being supportive. It's being relatable. It feels like a peer. It feels like a peer programmer. It doesn't feel like I'm sitting next to some Silicon Valley god celebrity who's condescending at me all this time and who's giving me more things just because they know them. They want to give those things to me, but they make all these assumptions that I know how to code, that I know what it is that they mean. It's full of technical jargon. It's extremely frustrating. It's extremely verbose. And to me, the language of it, the pattern, the way ChatGPT 5 interacts with me reminds me so much of the negative experiences of interacting with people with very high opinions of themselves in tech. So the jury is still out. I'm sure they'll tweak it, but it's not my favorite debugging assistant from what you can see.